Hi, welcome to the video. My name's Nightfall, and today I'm talking about my top 10 Warlock Exotics in Destiny 2 for Season of the Haunted. And of course, I've made a spreadsheet for this video with all of its beautiful dark theme, color-coded PvE and PvP rankings, as well as recommendations, which can still be found at my Discord server, link in the description down below on the channel #spreadsheetstock. And furthermore, this video is going to be split into two main parts. The first part will be talking about the top 10s, the ones that I like the best out of the best, and of course, after that, talk about the unranked items very briefly. I would also like to recommend you do watch this second section, as there's a lot of really good exotics that just don't fit in a list of 10 and are also very good and very fun. Moving on, let's go ahead and get started. First up, for the only honorable mention, we have the Sunbracers. Now, there may be a lot of people that are upset the Sunbracers are not on the top 10 list. Now, I will say that they're probably at number 11, and that's still a very, very good exotic. And honestly, the Warlocks have a lot of very good exotics. The fact is, this increases the duration of solar grenades, which are really nice, especially with that flame aspect. Your solar melees give you unlimited solar grenades for like 5 seconds, allowing you to throw like 5 solar grenades, which are really fun, but it does depend on a melee kill. Although Celestial Fire is a good ranged melee kill, it still depends on melee and thus loses out in the highest level. But definitely a very fun exotic and definitely something I do like using. Following that, at number 10, we have the Aeon Soul. Pretty much the same as all of the other Aeon options. The ability to spawn in heavy ammo or special ammo on champions and major enemies is very strong in the highest level play, especially if you don't know what to use, like you're on a Stasis Bleak Watcher, Stasis Turret Warlock. Put on Aeon Soul. If you don't have, for example, Osmiomancer, is a good option and very useful in the highest level play, on top of a lot of other bonuses. The big issue I have with the Aeons is that we still don't feel like using multiple Aeons, which is the whole purpose of this, is to use multiple Aeons on the team to get bigger bonuses. Although you do get bigger bonuses, they're not worth it in my opinion. Following that, at number 9, we have the new exotic legs known as Rain of Fire. Now, I didn't actually expect this one to make it in the top 10, but after using it for a while, it actually feels really good and definitely a lot of fun. Definitely harks to the day of particle deconstruction, although not nearly as powerful. Where PD actually gave you double the damage, this gives you 25% more damage every time you get a fusion rifle kill. You get Radiant, which, as you know, Radiant gives you a number of bonuses on top of the ability to get more damage, the other bonuses within your subclass. On top of also being able to air dodge to get all of your ammo, which is actually very nice considering you can air dodge every like 4 or 5 seconds, and you also get better in air accuracy, which makes it so you can use it better in PvP. And furthermore, you don't only have to use this with Vex, you can also use it with a lot of other fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles, which are still very good in PvE. Following that, at number 8, we have the Eye of Another World. You highlight priority targets, which are enemies with low health, and you improve the regeneration of your grenade, your melee, and your rift abilities. Essentially, if you use your abilities a lot, especially in PvP, this is a very good exotic for you guys to use, although not technically the best PvP exotic, which definitely we'll talk about in a little bit. And essentially what this exotic does is it gives you more stats in every column. So you don't have to go for a full 10 out of 10 in recovery or full 10 out of 10 within discipline or even in strength. You can go to like 7 or 8 out of 10. This will just give you around plus 20. Following that, at number 7, we have the Stag. Pretty much the same as it was before. It gives you more resistance in your rift. You put a rift down whenever you die, which is very useful in PvP, and even then, still useful in PvE as well. And most of the time, people do end up using this on Arc, which Arc hasn't changed yet and may end up getting better next season whenever Arc 3.0 comes out. That being said, there was a slight nerf to it, is that sometimes you like using it on Solar, and technically they made it so you cannot have an overshield in your well, and they also removed Benevolent Dawn, which was another big bonus for using it with Solar that I really liked that they removed. Following that, at number 6, we have the Transversive Steps. Pretty much the same as all of these speed boots. Going faster is very useful in a shooter game. Makes it so you're harder to hit, makes it so you can chase down enemies faster, escape faster, always useful, on top of being able to autoload the weapon you're currently holding after sprinting for a short period of time. And this is obviously especially useful with slow loading weapons. To be honest, not much more to say here. Everyone pretty much knows this exotic. It is very good for PvP, and even then, pretty good in PvE if you want to jump across gaps or just get through a strike faster. After that, at number 5, we have the Osmiomancy, which is actually a very good exotic for both PvP and PvE. For the PvP side of things, obviously having more cold snap grenades with overflow charging, being able to freeze more enemies, it traveling farther, and the ability to recharge it quicker on direct impact is very powerful. Having a lot more grenades, a lot more freezing opportunities, a lot more shards, etc., for your stasis based stuff, which is still a decent option for Crucible on the Warlock. And furthermore, it's also good in PvE, especially if you're using the Bleak Watcher stasis turrets, you have a double stasis turret with overflow charging, which overflow charging is so good. And you also have the opportunity to freeze enemies normally with that cold snap grenade, which you can technically, if you hit them directly with it, it hits the ground and then hits somebody, you get both of your grenades back. So there's a way to have infinite turrets and infinite grenades while infinitely freezing your enemies. Definitely a very good option for both. Following that, at number 4, we have the Starfire Protocol, probably the exotic I've used the most on Warlock this season, and honestly, I do think it's a better option than that of Sunbracers for a number of reasons, but obviously definitely more of a higher level play and maybe not as fun as Sunbracers. If you've not heard of it, you get an additional fusion grenade, which again, overflow charging, and fusion grenades have that double explosion, bigger radius thing from the flame aspect, which is really good, by the way. They also recharge that fusion grenade from empowered weapon damage. You stand in your powering rift, you shoot an enemy once, you get about a fourth of your grenade, and fusion grenade kills give you your full rift back, which is not super necessary, but definitely does help out. Now, here's the scenario you use this in. You have a boss in front of you, you put down your empowering rift, you throw your grenade, you shoot an enemy around 4 times over like 2 seconds, you get your grenade back, you throw another grenade, rinse and repeat, and you're doing ridiculous amounts of damage. To give you an idea, fusion grenades with the double explosion does 30,000, then 40,000 damage with those 2 explosions, and a rocket does around 60 plus 15,000 damage. So you're doing about a rocket's worth of damage per fusion grenade every 2 seconds. This is so strong, and you're not even using heavy ammo. I would say the one downside is you can no longer use it with the double healing grenades you could with last season with Benevolent Dawn and the overshield stuff in Crucible, but still very, very strong. Following that at number 3, and probably the best PvP exotic, is going to be Ophidian Aspect. And this exotic is very, very simple. Weapons reload and ready very quickly, and your melee range is extended, which essentially are all of the things you want for PvP. Your weapons ready quickly, especially after the changes to quick draw many seasons ago, is very powerful. Reloading faster means you don't have to use those points on your gloves, you can use on something else, and reloading faster really helps with things like Rampage or Kill Clip or any benefits for reloading your weapon. And finally, melee range is extended, which you should already know is very strong in PvP. Especially now that the Warlocks actually melee at the same speed as all the other classes, this can give you the edge. Essentially, anytime you don't feel good about a weapon, maybe like aggressive hand cannons or aggressive shotguns, they just feel slow and sluggish, this essentially just makes them much better. It'll definitely make you feel better. Maybe not curing your crippling depression, but definitely make your weapons feel better. And if that doesn't make you feel better, keep in mind that it's a 6 in PvE and a 9 in PvP. Nice. Following that at number 2, we have the Controverse Hold, which you've probably seen last season was killing it with Void 3.0, and it's still a very, very good option. You resist incoming damage while charging your grenade with the charging grenade thing, and you also get a random amount of grenade energy on hits. Keeping in mind, this is hits, not kills, which is very useful in the highest level play. And it gives you around 40 to 60% of your grenade back. Combine that with some other elemental well stuff or other bonuses to your grenade like firepower, on top of being able to weaken enemies with your void grenades with that one fragment, and Nova Bomb just being a really powerful option. It's just such a dependable option to get your grenade every like 10 to 20 seconds. That's really strong charged grenade that weakens and pulls enemies in, especially with Vortex, is really nice. And the only thing I'll say is that technically it got nerfed since last time because Axiom Bolts aren't as powerful and thus not as good in PvP. And finally, at number 1, we have the Verity's Brow, an exotic which I often consider to be highly underrated. However, sometimes a bit finicky if you don't really know how it works. Essentially, weapon final blows with a damage type that's matching your subclass, like using a void weapon with a void subclass, give you death throws, which is a buff you'll see on the left side. And death throws gives you more grenade damage, around 20% per stack, up to 5 stacks, and gives you grenade regeneration whenever you get death throws and you have it maintained. And whenever you throw a grenade, which you're probably going to be doing a lot, your teammates get greatly increased grenade regeneration, which is really nice. It doesn't even need that to be good. And furthermore, this is technically universal. You can use it on the new Solar 3.0 with the double exploding fusion grenades that do a lot of damage and now make it do double the damage with this thing. You could also use it with the Void 3.0 instead of Controverse Hold, as still a great option. And technically across the other classes, and we may end up seeing it even more on Arc 3.0. This is an exotic that's very powerful, although a bit finicky, definitely something you have to get used to, and does require a weapon of a certain type, is still very strong, and I really like it. Moving on, let's go ahead and go over all of the non-ranked items. And again, I highly recommend you watch this section. I'll go through each item very briefly, and a lot of these items are very fun and very good, but just don't fit in a list of 10. First up, we have the Apotheosis Veil, a number of bonuses after your super's over that are not super necessary. Astrocide Verse actually solves every problem with Blink, and Void 3.0 did get better, and it is actually very good, but very high skill floor, high skill ceiling exotic. Crown of Tempest, a number of good bonuses to Arc, which you may end up seeing it a lot more next season with Arc 3.0, but Arc as in general is not very good. Dawn Chorus, kind of go back and forth with his exotic. Last season did insane amounts of damage. This season, a lot more of a crowd control, lots of ignition and scorch-based stuff, and it's still good, but just missing the mark. Felwinter's Helm gives your powered melee kills a big burst of stuff that weakens enemies and disorients them, but Warlock melees are not really that good for PvP. Nezaric's Sin, definitely a fan favorite exotic, giving you a very small amount of ability regeneration from any void damage, which includes your weapons and your subclass, which is nice, but missing the top 10. Skull of Dire Kara, allowing you to get more Nova Bombs, is good, but very niche and not often necessary. Claws of Amkara, double melee charge when Warlock melees are not that good these days. Getaway Artist may end up being really good next season with Arc 3.0 and actually is nice to use, but very limited by Arc, and oftentimes I'd rather just use my grenade. Carnage Steam Armlets, good health regeneration, good health back, and for a decent amount of time, but based on melee, which is not very good on Warlock. I hope you're seeing a theme, because we'll say this more times. Necrotic Grip, actually really nice with Osteostriga or with Thorn, but very dependent on either melee kills, and it doesn't really do that well with the melee. Nothing Manacles, additional scatter grenade and better projectiles, doesn't really do much compared to some of the other options like Vortex, which before it was Action Bolt. Winter's Guile, better melee damage for melee kills on a not melee based class. Chromatic Fire, actually a very fun exotic, allowing you to get double explosions with Firefly like on Ace of Spades, and also works with Outbreak Perfected Siva stuff, but very limited. The Mantle of Battle Harmony, actually a good exotic, gives you better super generation, gives you more damage like Rampage stuff, but kind of limited and not really a big bang. Phoenix Protocol, an exotic that used to be around #1 for a very long time, got a pretty big nerf this season when Well got worse. You can no longer have an overshield with Well, which was very big and important for the highest level. That being said, I still think Well is a good option, definitely still deserves an 8 out of 10 for PvE, but not nearly as broken as it was before. Sanguine Alchemy, a very sad exotic that extends her rift duration, and that's it, and requires skills to do so. Come on. Stormdancer's Brace, another arc-based exotic, but Storm Chance is not very good. Arc 3.0 may end up changing that. Vespers of Radius gives you a shockwave and a lot of rift energy, can be used with the stasis shockwave, but not that common. Wings of Sacred Dawn, actually a very good exotic these days. High skill floor, high skill ceiling, really works well with mid-air accuracy stuff, and this has a high mid-air accuracy base stat, but kind of hard to use. Boots of the Assembler, a nice way to support your team in a bunch of different ways, but somewhat limited. Geomag Stabilizers, actually really good for Chaos Reach, extends it to make it twice as long as you're hitting enemies, and definitely will become better next season, but limited by Arc. Lunafaction Boots, exclusively used for raid DPS in a Well for faster reloads and double range, and a lot of times we're not staying in the same spot anymore, like with the newest raid. Promethean Spur, cover the battlefield in rifts when you're using your super, or with this weird combination with having your class ability, is very niche, and I just don't know when it makes a difference. Seeking Filaments, giving you a non-kill option to get Devour, which is nice, and gives you overload rounds in your rift for you and your teammates, but very niche and somewhat clunky. Personally, when my teammate has an empowering rift, I am sad. I wanted a healing one. I mean, you know, it's Starfire Protocol, I know that's me these days, but like, come on, it's Starfire Protocol. And of course, these videos would really not be possible without the cute animals on screen right now, because when you look at those cute animals, you feel a little bit better about your day, maybe even smile a bit, maybe say, aw. The patrons on Patreon also like them as well, which really make these spreadsheets possible. If you want to see them continue, please consider checking out, link in the description down below. Specifically, a big thank you to Mom and Dad, Pasta Loans, Unbox the World, Monday, Sue Barkmans, Unipanther, and Casey Reagan for their support on Patreon. And that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Chronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.